Here.
Haig. Here. King.
Here.
McHugh. Here. North.
Here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with a bit of clarification on the resolutions. One being that resolution for the ballot 6A in support of fundraising for Clear Creek Libraries. The second being a resolution in opposition to Amendment 80 that diverts public funding to education to private entities.
I'll second.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Haig.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
McHugh.
Yes.
Yes. Board of Education updates.
Okay, couple updates. Sounds a little duplicative from our study session, but for the benefit of our vast audience, I will share again. I did have a meeting with Jill Stansbury as a follow-up to the marketing presentation that we heard at our last board meeting. After our study session, we talked about working on a survey, so that's on my to-do list, with Ms. Stansbury agreeing to kind of be my eyes to make sure that we'll land that properly. So I'm excited about that. I've been working with Lindsay Valdez to finalize the report for our Carlson community meeting. That has been put together. I got it today, so I didn't send it to everybody. I didn't think that would give you all enough time to look at it. But what I will share is that it's really well done, professional document. I think it would look really great on our website if we're able to comply and get that up on there. Really pulls out kind of the key themes that we heard, both from the wants, the needs, the fears. She also provided us with the list of everybody that was there in attendance. So I think we're building out kind of this bigger list. I will send that all to you. I did share with Tom and Lori, but recognized it wouldn't get enough time for. I have followed up with rural schools. Really excited to have learned how integrated Tom is into the group. Thank you for your participation with that. Looking forward to leaning in and working with Rachel Lee and some additional issues. Rural Schools Alliance, they are very much in alignment with all of the issues that we are aligned with. Feels really like an existing partnership that we can really take to the next level, I believe, with just small effort and touch points. I participated in our CAT meeting last week, I think it was, maybe this week.
No, it was last
They're all
week.
smushed, okay. That was a good meeting, really wrapping up the work there as the bond is also wrapping up. A really good discussion around kind of getting us back to thinking about long-range planning and what we need to do and how we really think about spending some time to try to recruit folks to participate in our long-range planning committee, and then giving an opportunity for that group of people who are interested to kind of sit in with a CAT meeting or two to kind of have a more warm handoff of what has been done, what we've all seen and talked about, to really get everybody to a level set playing field as we kind of start that next piece. So that was good. And we will continue to meet probably a handful of times. We will not meet again until January, given that we've got a couple things that won't have moved too significantly far between now and then, and holidays. So there was clear consensus that was the direction. And then finally, and I think I've reported before that through the expanding early childhood education, Clear Creek County and the Clear Creek Schools Foundation, we did award early childhood scholarships to a couple dozen families. And the great thing about this is that it was able to be awarded to multitude of organizations. So whether it's GCS and their preschool program, whether it's through Carlson's program, Fairly Tall, private providers, it was really important to make sure that we had opportunity to kind of put that in multiple places throughout the county and not just serving one business. That was a concern for me, and we kind of found the way to work through that. And just by reference, the county was able to support that through the expanded use of lodging tax, and that they can, by a vote of the people, which we did do a couple of years ago, the county is able to leverage lodging taxes in a couple of different ways beyond simply tourism marketing. And one of the things that the county opted to do was support early childhood centers. And so this is really a great kind of seeing all of that through. We will be paying out this month, October, November, and December. Funds are exhausted. I do believe that it was a program that people were excited about. So I'm hopeful that as we kind of look through all of our numbers and figure out kind of what the best next steps are to go to the county for additional funding. Really wondering if this is the lane for the Clear Creek Schools Foundation in the long term, but very happy to see a need, fill a need. I think that's kind of what our jam has been lately. So it's nice that we were able to do that. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, so we had our quarterly BOCES meeting on September 23rd. Good news, all districts in the BOCES are fully staffed with special service providers, so that is always good. Amy Gamma is our new SWAP coordinator, so she's working with Kip Otteson on that transition. So that's really exciting. The focus for the BOCES continues to be differentiated instruction in all districts. So we do have a survey if it has not already gone out. Has it already gone out?
It's already out.
Okay.
You should already.
Yeah, so it went out to all instructors to get kind of a baseline of how each educator rates their knowledge of MTSS and differentiated instruction, so that then we can compare it to a survey at the end of the year to see like kind of the difference that the BOCES is making in that education. Okay. Continuing on my mental and emotional behavioral health track. I attended this Monday and Tuesday this week, the Colorado Roundtable on Firearm Harm Reduction with Sheriff Matt Harris. And interestingly, I told Tom that I think he was the only law enforcement person in attendance, which was really weird for a firearm harm
But
reduction.
also impressive.
Roundtable
There.
Yes. So it was really good. This is only the second year of the roundtable. So I didn't necessarily come away with like tasks or procedures or to-dos in that sense, because the coalition is really kind of still in the process of creating all of the what, why, how, when, where. So the roundtable was really about creating that process more for Colorado and building upon what they did last year, more so than here are my takeaways to bring into the community. We, with building leaders and administration, we had our crisis response handbook meeting, and we are in the process of getting that kind of transitioned over to Clear Creek. I worked a few hours last week on getting like Clear Creek logos and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff put on it, and then making the changes that we had determined in the meeting. And we have another meeting on the 23rd to hopefully finalize it to go out. At that point in time, then building leaders will create, have meetings with their staff about kind of the implementation of this. And I think I said this in the last meeting, but Sunny Vincent will be kind of the go-to person in the instance of a crisis response. So Dr. Mile will be the initial point of contact, whether it be from the sheriff's office or the coroner's office, but after he has verification of some sort of crisis, then it will go to Sunny to kind of implement the downstream in whatever building is necessary. And I also attended the Clear Creek Behavioral Health Alliance meeting. We continue to work there on creating the community resources, and hopefully we will have that information out within the next few months.
I attended the October DAC meeting where we just continued discussions on the survey. I think I said this at our study session that we're going to have 3 versions, one for families, one for educators, and then just one for people that are community members without students in the school. And then we begin forming the questions, and we're now like halfway through with the questions, so we'll finish that in November. I also participated in the Henderson Mines Community Investment Fund grant application review and applicant interviews. We were able to award 4 recipients a combined total of a little over $200,000. Let's see, Clear Creek had applied for a grant through this fund, but Lalitha moved it over to Henderson Investment Funds to fully fund our grant request in the amount of $12,500. $10,000 is gonna go to post-secondary pathways, by paying a student's direct cost of internship, workforce certificates, or college credits. Fund will also support educators, professional development, and career-connected learning, which allows them to award, college credit for classes that they teach. And then the additional $2,500 to be used, business marketing class where students work alongside incubator ed students to complete business plans for point of sales for the outdoor rec and tech class. The funds will also go directly to supplies, software license, business registration as needed by the students. Dr. Meyer, Jessica, and Mitch and I had a meeting where we just went over foundation topics and marketing. I think it went well. And then lastly, I'm happy to report that both JV and varsity girls volleyball won their games last night in 3 over Union Colony.
Hooray. So, I actually have not done that much unless you count all of the various conversations I've had with the public throughout the last 3-4 weeks. It's been, what it tells me is that I must be approachable. So that's good. I'm having lots of great conversations and I feel pretty good about the conversations. They're not all, you guys are doing great. They're all, do you think you guys could consider this? But mostly it's, you guys are doing the right thing when you're deliberating and you're making your decisions, and that felt really good. I did attend the chat review committee. We're at that point now where we're getting into it a little bit. It's taken a little bit of time to get some traction there. I'll be doing a report on crisis intervention prevention from what I have investigated before. And Erica, I may be reaching out to you to help supplement that report if you're okay with it. I can do Summit, not so much GEVCO.
Yeah.
So that's just about it. This is my do or die season in my business. So that's what I've been focusing on, frankly.
You're busy ladies. Thank you. I attended the BOCES meeting with Erica, marketing meeting with Marcy, but I've been really focused on recovery more than anything. But thank you for the steps with that. The community's been busy. Maybe the Sean Wood Memorial Service here. Loaves and Fishes had a fundraiser. That was a really fun event in Idaho Springs this month. And Idaho Springs had its first literary festival. So that was also, so not necessarily from my board hat, but just, again, amazing things going on within the community. And this week is homecoming. So my house has been kind of living and breathing that with the seniors. So you're kind of feeling that too. So anyhow, how did we get here? It happens way too fast. But this weekend, I am traveling to Pueblo to represent the board at the CASB Delegate Assembly. So I'll have lots more next month, but this month's been nice and recovering. Tom.
And I threw some things up there. The one was homecoming week. I came over this afternoon for a little bit, saw some activities that way. I actually have a video I'll put out. I just haven't had a chance to put it out, some pictures and things like that. So I talked to Brandy. I think it's been a good week. Talked to a few teachers. That's been a really good week. That way, the week's always good. Enrollment, have some there. It's down 2 students this year, the way it looks right now, which compared to losing 108 in the last 5 years, that's a pretty good thing, okay? Not down is never good, but so that's good. I attended the Rural Superintendent Academy as it was our second convening of this forum during the year 5 forum. That way, it was on Thursday and Friday in Frisco, and they talked about open systems. I put some things in here, and as we were talking about open systems involved in the community, involving anywhere from Clear Creek Education Association, different groups to come in and visit. That's what an open system is. And I'll just say this to this board and people here and people listening, let's do a nice job of that, inviting people in. I don't know if it's always been like that or not, but I'm impressed when I'm sitting there listening to this stuff. I think we do that kind of stuff. I think we do this kind of stuff. Board members are involved in things. They're hearing people. So congratulations to all of you. Sometimes people are afraid to do that. Okay, and sometimes like, oh yeah, but it's good, that kind of stuff. So just kind of, it's part of democracy. I do have George Welsh is one of the leaders of that. I guess he is the leader, probably, but there's some other people there. I would like to in November to go over board superintendent and joint roles with him, having him come in and I think you did some of that, maybe didn't get finished from my understanding. He would like to come in and visit too, so I would like to do that. We can talk about that later too, but I think it'd be a good thing for us to do. I was at the city council meeting, Sunday this week, Monday, I think it was, a work session, just kind of present about the school, a little bit about myself, even though I think I knew most of the people there already from other times, just presented them. I went to the Rotary to the Bike Factory. If you haven't ever been there, I encourage you to go there. It's actually pretty amazing. I came away like, I text both my sons on the way home. It's like, you gotta go there, look at this place. So looking at a student representative policy for the future when we figure out what it is. That way it's hard for them to get here this time. I know Asher contacted me, I let Marcy know that. I got a game tonight, and they have powder puff, so this is not a good night. So once things settle down a little bit, if they ever really settle down, we'll get on that a little more, but it's kind of seeing how it goes. And then I participated in a meeting for a grant proposal with the ski industry. A grant proposal with the ski industry with school district. I was there, Becky was there, Mitch from the foundation was there, and then some other people from CEI, the Colorado Education Initiative, were there. So we talked about some possibilities of developing an agreement with Colorado Mountain College to look at kind of some pathways in that regard with the ski industry, whether it's resort things, whether it's working, just different things. Not sure where it's going to go, but it's a fairly large grant. It hasn't been released yet exactly, so we're still working on that. But just so you know, that'd be some relevant learning. And then one thing I've been putting out more, and you're going to start seeing more of that, is everyone has a story. Every student, every teacher, every staff member, every parent, every community member, we all have stories. Every board member, you all have a story. It's not just your story overall, but your story today. Maybe, you know what? I had a really rotten day, and now I'm sitting at this board. And I'm so happy to be here. It's like, but just recognize that everyone has a story. We talk about, and to meet everyone's needs. For our kids, recognizing those needs, it's that customization of learning for them and what they need. So you'll hear more. I'm going to keep throwing that out there. I'll have a little more narrative with that in the future, but that's, I think, what I had. I remember this, so good.
So we've got Mrs. Lorraine Schwartz here with us today, Carlson Elementary. Right?
Am I next?
So, yes, if you'd like,
All right.
would you like to stand? Would you like to sit? Would you, we can let you dance.
I don't know.
I just with this, I think you started doing this last year, was my understanding, and I talked to Lorraine and the principals. I guess at the start of the year of doing this, kind of develop a schedule. We are going to split the middle school and high school up. Those will be 2 separate days. I think we talked about that in here. But I kind of told Lorraine some things that maybe look at that way. I've seen it talks about Carlson Elementary. We will have more discussion about student learning data, whether that's CMAS, whether that's surveys that way, just different things. And that presentation will be in November, just so you're aware of that.
I'll touch on a couple
You'll touch a
things.
little bit on that
A little
too, but you'll get a broader overview. So I'll shut up and let you go on with that.
It's all good. So my name is Lorraine Schwartz, although I think I know everybody in the room. I'm principal of Carlson Elementary. Again, pretty sure y'all know that. I'm going to give you a sort of high-level overview of what's going on at Carlson this year. Maybe.
This is where you dance now.
Yes.
Nope, gotta check to see if there was.
Give them a big note.
Oh, you turn it on and then it's green. I like
That
it.
works too.
Nice. All right, so I'm going to begin with stating the obvious. We are super grateful and excited. We've moved into our new building. It's amazing, it's wonderful, it's gorgeous, it's all the things. And then this picture is here because I'm also going to state the obvious. It has been an incredible amount of work. And the reason I bring that up is just to acknowledge the fact that at the end of the year, my teachers put in dozens, and that's probably conservative, of hours packing. And then to move in this year, dozens of hours unpacking. And yeah, we're moving through it, and we've made it through most of our boxes, not all of our, but most. There's a lot less cardboard in the building right now. The impact that that has overall is that's time that they would have spent planning for the year. That's time they would have spent reflecting on the year, iterating for next year. And even though we've unpacked and we've settled in, the impact that it will have throughout the whole year and cut into like their overall plan time, we're still feeling those ripple effects. You're always tired in October. We're a special kind of tired this year. So just acknowledging that. Super wonderful, also a lift. I know there's been a lot of questions and concerns and overall curiosity about enrollment. So I went through and I took my end of year list of students and I took my beginning year list of students. I'm going to see whether or not I bite it on this. It'll be interesting.
Don't bite it, please.
I'll do my best.
I'll catch you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm clumsy at
Entries are
heart
not
though, so it's all good. End of year last year, I was at 126 students with 23 in preschool. At the start of this year, we're at 130 students K-6 with 16 in preschool. I've got 3 more starting in November, and of course, you know, that's, we count by, we're down to this year. 13 students came up to 6th grade at the end of last year. 10 preschoolers moved to kindergarten. 101 elementary students stayed the same. 19 new elementary students enrolled and 12 elementary students left. So just to kind of like, that shows a difference of 4, but this is really the action that happened. And the impact there is really the mobility rate. So if you take your new students and your exiting students and you divide it by your total student body, we have a mobility rate of 24%, which is to say that that can impact, right? That has an impact on what you can teach students from year to year. This is a snapshot of our our spring CMAS school performance framework. You've likely seen this. We increased 4% overall from last year. We have work to do in academic achievement. We made some decent academic growth. Overall, I'm pleased because I believe that the way we will get to the academic achievement is by continuing to grow. And so we will continue to work on that. Then I'm going to give you, so those were sort of one-off pieces that didn't fit information that I wanted to share. The rest of the presentation is going to be framed by our school design at a glance. This is sort of a snapshot of the work that we've been doing with Transcend for the last couple of years. There are a lot of pieces in this glance, in this overview, that we have implemented and we're implementing pretty well. We're now looking at, okay, how do we refine this? How do we iterate on that? And we're making active revisions. There are other pieces in this snapshot where that's still part of the vision and we're not quite there yet, but that's where we're headed. Our mission remains the same. We're a community of joyful learners committed to growing into our best selves through authentic experiences. Unlike some mission statements that maybe get pushed to the side, I own that one. That's important to me, all of the little parts of that. And so I think that as a building, that's something we really strive for. Learner profile. In Clear Creek, we've put a lot of work into our learner profile. These are the ways that it shows up at Carlson. We connect to the learner profile during CREW. It's reported out in student progress in their report cards, and then students reflect on it during student-led conferences. So it's definitely an embedded part of a lot of the work that we do at Carlson. CREW today was about critical thinking. We spent some time talking about that. The design principles, one line down. So back when we started doing our school redesign with Transcend, we did a lot of work with our community, with our teachers, with our students, and through focus groups and interviews, we talked about what do we want for our kids. And you might be familiar, Transcend has 10 leaps of, what kind of leaps do we need to make to move learning into the 21st century. They are down the left side of this. These are the 3 that Carlson chose to focus on. And in some ways we cheated because rigorous and relevant are listed separate on there and we combined them. So really it's 4, not 3. The data here shows student perception survey. This was student survey at the beginning of this year. And it compares us to the benchmark. So the N sizes on the teal is benchmark data from Transcend. So, 81,300 students took this from Transcend's network. In Clear Creek, it was 269 students, but it's comparing our N size, comparing our responses overall to their responses. And while we still have a lot of room to grow, I think we've made some, compared to where some of their other schools are at, we're not doing too shabby. Customization, obviously our strongest. We've got some work to do in relevance. Some of my questions there are, what does relevant mean to a 3rd grader? And to what degree can I care? That sounds really blunt, but you've got to learn how to read. That's not a non-negotiable. Maybe, so how do I help you realize that that's relevant? We've got some work to do. Student experiences, this also should not be new. I would imagine you've seen this before, but as a district, these are experiences that we want our students to have across the district. So Crew and Connect, experiential learning, and future ready. And so these are just, this is the way that is defined at the district level. I'm not gonna read that, but I'm gonna dig into each of those and what it looks like at Carlson. So at Carlson, Crew is both a structure and a culture. It's a structure. We do Carlson Whole School Crew every morning. We start together, build a sense of community. We dig into the learner profile. We talk about different skills and regulation. We talked about our, we do a thermometer check. Where are you checking in the morning? But then we also talk about, like, why does it matter? And the fact that my kiddos can tell me, well, this is the zone where you're regulated and you're going to learn better in that zone. And if you're too excited or you're too tired and sad, it's hard. But then we go further, like, what can you do? What can you own to get yourself to a point of regulation? And recognizing when you're not regulated, like, that's a powerful skill as a human. So we do a lot of that. Then they have a classroom crew and they work on restorative practices and connection circles. The idea being that if we're gonna do deep learning, we've got to be able to support each other. If we want kiddos who can give and receive critical feedback, then you have to trust the people that you're doing that with. Service learning is certainly a fun part of Crew. We did a fundraiser for Loaves and Fishes this year, gathered over 300 pounds of food for them. That was pretty awesome. We did a project where we celebrated Elliot's birthday and did a fund drive for Charlie's Place. And then one of my favorites I'll show you in the next slide. Epic Adventures is something where it's sort of a vision and where we're headed. We're dabbling in that. I don't feel like we're all the way there yet, working on it. So Crew is about developing relationships so that we can support each other socially, emotionally, and academically. Here we have people from the rec center passing out a contest. Somebody won, Lucy Vickers won a design contest and they came to celebrate her at Crew. That was in that particular Crew, we talked about leadership. This is the food we raised for Loaves and Fishes. This one, second grade, is one of my favorites. they're doing a service learning project to raise money for people impacted by the hurricanes in Florida. And not because their teacher told them to, but because they were passionate about it. And wrote a letter asking for support, and their teacher's like, well, I can copy this. No, we want to write it ourselves. So, the passion of 7-year-old people is just really cool. Oh,
They wrote over 120 some letters.
they did. Yeah. Kids are awesome. This is the goal. So at Carlson, we have 3 overarching goals this year. This is the goal that connects with Crew. And basically it's that we are working toward defining common behavioral expectations, pushing into restorative practices, and making sure that our students are able to fully access and benefit from dynamic learning experiences. That's one of the pieces we're working on. Being future ready. Being future ready is something that we are aiming for. I feel like that's sort of the crux of education. At Carlson, it looks like student-engaged assessment practices. This means student-led conferences, celebrations of learning, and then in the classroom, that's supported by using learning targets, helping with models, critiques, and feedback, checks for understanding, using data to make sure that we really understand where our kids are and that we're differentiating to meet them at their different spots, and then reflection and debriefs, because that's how people learn. A little bit deeper, being future ready is making sure that they're ready to access future opportunities. And the way we're leaning into that in terms of our goals this year is we're making sure, so when I say that we are refining our rigorous and relevant instructional practices, we actually have those outlined. Like, what does that look like when you're in the classroom? We're refining those all the time and making sure that we're getting better at those instructional practices, and then using formative student data to guide that differentiation within the EL literacy and Eureka Math curricular resources, so that we're not saying, hey, they don't get it, I'm going to bounce to this, but am I using this resource and all that it has to offer so that I can take the formative assessments because it's, aligned with the standards, and help the student figure out what holes they're missing so that they can access the curriculum. The goal is always that all kids meet their growth goals. Lots of work there. And then the third one is experiential learning at Carlson. That comes through your expeditionary learning, our ELA modules. That guides a lot of it. And then Eureka Math Squared, this is our second year with that. And so we'll continue to figure out how we can push that. Gift of Place is huge for us. Our community is incredibly supportive. And we have, both the mountain and the town. And so we lean into that a lot. I'll give you an example. First grade does a module where they study tools. And so they take walking field trips into the town of Idaho Springs and investigate what each of the different businesses use. What kind of tools do you use at the ice cream shop? What kind of tools do you use at the spice shop? How does that how do we think about that? What kind of, wow, that really is a tool. They were talking about, for example, are spices a tool? And when people don't use them, then yes, you realize that it's a tool that somebody really woulda, shoulda, coulda used. Fieldwork and experts is something else. It makes the curriculum rich. That it's through this lens that the experiential learning piece really comes alive. One of our values at Carlson is experiential learning. I believe that students learn best when they're engaged in relevant, developmentally appropriate experiences that are meaningful to their lives. So this is one of our classes, Out and About. You can see the school down below them, so that's pretty exciting. The Clear Creek Fire Authority came and presented last week for fire awareness prevention. I'm going to have the week wrong. It was a fire week. And so that would be an example of experts coming. Here's some awesome hands-on learning that they were doing in 6th grade. And then this is actually a picture of teachers' professional development in September, where we went and experienced what it would be like to be a student experiencing an expedition. Because if you want your teachers to teach that way, then they also have to learn that way. So you gotta walk the talk. Our goal here is that we're gonna leverage our gift of place and make sure that our learning is strongly rooted in our community in the natural world, but also that it's tightly aligned to our standards and curricular resources and the learner profile. And that's it. That's what we're doing in a nutshell. Questions? There's a lot.
How are the kids feeling with kind of all of the expeditionary learning in their new school? It seems like it might be easier on one hand, harder on the other to get into town. I'm just kind of curious how it's working with the kids.
I think the kids are okay. Usually, they're troopers. When we were in the old building, we used to walk across the highway all the time to hike the, if you've ever been on the trail at the Forest Service that's next to us and you hike up a little bit, there is what we call a labyrinth, but it was built by our students. It's a spiral of rocks. And it was started by our preschool several years ago on Earth Day, and they would place the little rocks and they would sing happy birthday to the earth. And we've built onto that. And so I feel like the space was ours already. And now we just hike the other way. So right now, our kindergarten class is going over to the rec center on Thursdays for their swim lessons. And so it's just a matter of going in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is the Eureka Math, is that a program for all grades within your elementary school or
K-6.
K-6?
Mm-hmm. And I believe that it has also been adopted by the middle school.
It was always in
Right,
middle
yeah, it
school.
has been adopted by the middle school. So I'm wondering, do you think that the rollout of that is the reason why we had kind of not great math scores this year?
I think that it is a lot to implement a new program. I would also say that we rolled out Eureka Math Squared the year after we rolled out the expeditionary learning curriculum, and that it takes teachers 3 to 5 years to get good at a curriculum. One of the benefits of both of those curriculums are they are incredibly rich. So a lesson, you could read through 20 pages of material.
Okay.
That's for an hour lesson, keeping in mind that teachers teach, 7.
Right.
So to get through all of it with the depth that you need to, and that's part of the reason why that goal is to differentiate within the curriculum.
Sure.
The resource is there, it's really rich. We gotta learn how to continue to learn how to use it and leverage it. Mm-hmm.
Does it feel like the right move for Eureka Math?
I think so. It has some pieces that are different. It's very conceptual. But there is a lot of, you're not just doing the math and not understanding what you're doing. So you can learn an algorithm. You can learn how to do it, but it doesn't mean that you understand the numbers. And if somebody changes the numbers or gives you a different idea, it doesn't mean that you can flow with that because you really didn't understand what you were doing in the first place. This is different. It does it in a way, and there's a lot of conversation and collaboration so that the goal is that you have a depth of understanding with it so that you can use that in more, in a variety of ways as you build on it.
Gotcha. Your English scores were amazing. Congratulations.
We still have room to grow, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, always
I would say
growing.
I would say the depth of understanding, when you have a depth of understanding, it builds on it for the following years too. It's not spiraling, but there's
100%.
different words you can use for it, but that depth
Right.
is where you truly are
Yeah.
learning.
Right. Well, and from year to year, so we can set up this foundation in this grade, and then the next year's teacher can build
Yes.
on some of that consistency that can help
Right.
too. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you.
Mhm.
pitch.
The recycling center loves all the cardboard.
Leah.
The game.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Lorraine. It's nice to see what it's all for and how it all works in practice. Not just, you know.
Why are we doing this?
papers. So I think so first book of business for me, I guess, is the first quarter financial statements. We can start page 1 with the general fund. So sequentially, I'm gonna go kind of to the middle, estimated fund balance, beginning of the year. I did still list this as estimated because I don't have our audit complete. I think we're pretty close. That number should be pretty close as far as, beginning 6.4 million round numbers. We had budgeted 6.18, so picked up $238,000 somewhere along the line. To be quite honest, I didn't identify what that missing expense was. So with the first quarter, our revenues, we don't really receive property taxes, so our revenues look really grim. That's just the nature of timing and not a concern of mine. As far as expenditures, we also don't start school until mid-August, so expenses are lower. Teachers' salaries, they're paid September through August, so we're only picking up 1 month's salary for our teachers. And that's in my opinion, reflected in that instructional service, pupil service. Those are coming in around 30% of what we would expect first quarter expenses to be if we were straight and saying, you know, a quarter of the cost attributed to each respective quarter. So those numbers feel to be coming in line to me. Instructional staff, that's going to have some non-year-round staff that may have been paid in August. So that still feels like an appropriate number. We're trending with our budget. General administration, we're over by $3,000, what we would anticipate. We did dig into that, and it looks to me that the case memberships are charged there, and they were all charged in the first quarter. So the budget's $12,000. We incurred $12,000. We won't have ongoing expense within that category. So I think we're on par there as well. School administration seems about right. Business services, that's primarily my position, and supporting cost for business services. Since I'm year-round, we should be close to actual. Maintenance and operations, we're trending at 115%. So looking into that, that is primarily year-round as well. But it seems to me that that's mostly some repairs and maintenance. There's just kind of miscellaneous things, getting custodial supplies and things like that. They actually incur higher expense in the first quarter as well, just getting set up for the year. So, and on the second page, the expenses are summarized by both expenditure and by object. So if you look at property services, that's predominantly repairs and maintenance, some utilities and copier leases. We're over the mark by about 30,000, which if you backed out the ceiling and paving project at this high school, we'd be on target. Transportation services, I think we're trending okay. Same with central services, and then other services, that's like special education programs. There's a few programs that are consolidated there. Part of the reason that's so low is BOCES costs are charged there, and we just received their fourth quarter invoice. So that hasn't been recognized. So overall, I think the budget that was submitted in the general fund should be pretty close, is what I'm seeing here. Does anyone have any questions on page 1? And I guess something else that I failed to mention is I changed the financial statements, if you've noticed. And some of the information is presented a little different. I think this gives you more information and just breaking it out in a little more detail, so we're all being transparent and we really know what we're doing with our resources. I also added a balance sheet. Some of that is given with the fund balance and whatnot previously. This just kind of gives you a better sense of if we have a lot of outstanding AR, what we have in cash on hand, due to, due froms, et cetera. So I thought that would be a good add, so you just have a little bit more information. Prepaid expenses are high because we used to, and it's totally legal, to charge everything fully expended when you receive the payment, as long as it's within that 1 fiscal year. I'm gonna probably break out workers' comp, things like that, big expenses each quarter, so our expenditures are more regulated and regular. Other than that, the due to, due from, the asset, I do have a transfer from the bond fund to the general fund, which will bolster cash. And basically, you could say that our cash position is similar to the 5.7 of fund balance. Questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, and expenditures by object, professional service, property service, other service, and other objects, those are all consolidated. So if you were trying to tie back to the budget, those all add up to one line. Okay, so food service. Also, revenues are received in arrears. Steve submitted reimbursements. I think Tom actually told me around $40,000 have been submitted for reimbursement. So we are operating at a loss, which we knew was going to be the case. The transfer that we projected feels at this time that it's probably appropriate, but we'll keep an eye on food service and see how that goes. We did receive very small increases to all their different categorical revenue streams, but we're talking pennies on the dollar, so I don't know how significant they'll be.
So are we dependent on the funds from the state entirely for our food service?
Predominantly.
So when I've done my research on what other school districts are doing, they've all come to the realization that that's clearly not enough, as we're seeing on this paper here. And should we make a budget adjustment to give Steve the leeway to feed our kids what they need to be fed and not have to worry about always going in the freaking red?
Which is, I mean, that's what we're doing in saying we're gonna transfer $175,000 to the food service fund, because you can't make it on your own. It's not gonna be self-sustaining.
Right.
So as a district, we have to decide in collaboration with Steve, what are your constraints? How, like, are you able to provide the type of food that we would like to provide? And as a district, what are we willing and what can we transfer into that fund?
So what's the difference between the vehicle of a transfer and adjusting the budget altogether?
So the budget is the expenses as they lie, basically.
Right.
The transfer covers the deficit of the fund. So.
Well, I'm saying when
if
we
we-
approved our budget
Mhm.
and we had line items for those budget, it
Mhm.
seems like we shorted food service. Unknowingly, we shorted it.
Last year, certainly.
Right, and don't we still have that opportunity to amend that budget?
Yes, so let's say, let's say Steve says, you've given me a budget of $480,000. It really costs me $500,000 to serve the kids the way that we should. We would then have to increase our transfer to $100,000 to balance that budget. But we could definitely make an amendment to the budget.
Okay.
But where we would actually realize the funds is a transfer from general.
Sure.
So if we increase budget, we increase the transfer. And I think
Thank you.
we'll just sit down with Steve, do a periodic review, see where he's at, see his pain points, and then present that to y'all and see if we're on track.
And to make the right transfer instead of too much or not
Keep
enough.
trying
If you're
to
gonna do it,
target,
if you're gonna
yeah.
do it, try not to do it
And I was gonna
too
say that
early
for
so
my
that-
audit updates, but we
Yeah.
did exceed what we anticipated and depleted the entire food service fund
Okay,
last year. And so
Yeah.
we had to make an additional transfer.
right.
And I think I looked, last year, what was initially scheduled, I want to say was 100,000. So we did already increase that.
We have 2 more students.
Cash, honestly, probably just needs transferred back to the general fund. But kind of six one way, half a dozen another. As far as the grants fund, how this was previously presented was state, federal, and local revenues, but I broke it out by the grants. And previously we'd done that from the expense standpoint, but I thought it might be more fruitful to look at what amount of salaries are tied to the grants, benefits, where are we actually spending our money within the grant programs? And so this is presented a little different, but I hope that it's helpful. And then I know for a fact that not every grant that we have this year is listed on this report. I'll clean that up. And then obviously as we get revenues in, I have to.
This is a fantastic addition.
Yeah, I agree.
I was
We're
hoping
going
that would be
through,
helpful.
it leaves going through figuring out all the grants, funds we get for them, how they're used, obviously, but also when that grant expires and the connections with that way too.
Yeah, I have another spreadsheet.
Yeah, We don't have that here tonight.
I love spreadsheets.
We've been looking at grants.
Any questions on grants? This will eventually net to zero. Right now, we are operating at a loss. We haven't submitted a request on any of the grants, but we're doing that next week. The bond redemption fund, that is, the revenue source is solely bond revenue or mill levy override. So we're not gonna see any revenues aside from earnings on investments for probably until March, April. You'll see the earnings on investment, the annual budget is pretty low. And part of that is the whole arbitrage set aside. We're earning more interest than we're ever gonna be able to keep. So I think we're earning interest in those accounts at around 5%. And back of the envelope math, we can keep about 1.7%. So a lot of what we earn, we will be giving back. And that's why the fund balance that is maintaining a decent amount of cash, and a lot of that is because we know we're gonna have a capital outlay. The capital reserve fund, so these budgets, we just kind of copy and pasted last year, to be quite honest, year over year. So as far as how the budgets are allocated, we really need to work with Aaron and the team to figure out how we want to go about spending capital improvements, that plan. We need to get that in place, and then we can revise the budget. Right now, it's just more or less a space holder. We did have fund balance, what we had anticipated being 1.6, and then the year-to-date actual came in or estimated at 1.9, so a variance of 2.5. That really isn't a savings. The TMF project just shifted. We had expenses that we thought we would recognize in 23, 24, get pushed to 24, 25. So if you see there's no TMF value that was budgeted, that will essentially be a loss. But I think because we still have some remaining bond funds, what we actually spend down in capital reserve this year very well may not be what's listed on this report. So we can do an amendment to this budget as well. I did talk to Kathleen as far as budget amendments are concerned, and she recommended doing only one amendment in the spring when we really have a good sense of where we're at, so we don't have all these moving
Sure.
pieces.
Yeah.
But obviously to report to you each quarter, so we know where we stand. And you can tell me otherwise if you'd prefer. The preschool fund, so I think Lorraine did suggest that, you know, we went from 23 kiddos, I want to say, to 16, so we over projected revenue. With that, we also had some salary changes, and, you know, the way the salary schedule fell, there was some savings in salary as well. So I think those will close to offset one another, but I'm not certain that the 100,000 is going to satisfy the fund. It really will depend. It sounded like we maybe have some additional kids that will be joining mid-year. We might be right on target. We might have to transfer a little bit more than what we originally projected. The bond fund, we essentially projected spending it down to 0. I think that's the goal. So it may look a little different where the costs come in compared to what it was originally budgeted. It was mostly just all one line item, 2 line items closing out bid packages, so. And then this is also, as far as revenue goes, we were receiving earnings on investment similar to the redemption fund. Anything else?
Thank you.
When we pay for the Everbright, transportation services, does that come out of transportation?
Yes.
I thought it did. Thank you.
Yeah, the way that they used to organize the information, it did not, but Kathleen and I changed it.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm like, well,
Yes.
maybe this looks
Yeah.
different. Okay. Thank
Leah, thank you for adjusting the presentation. It's very easy to follow, very clear. I really appreciate the work to clean this.
To be quite honest, I stole CDE's template, so.
We swipe those. We deal with integrity, pride, and enthusiasm.
I probably will, you know, make it a little more my own. Instead of just a quarterly presentation, I'll probably carry forward each quarter and adjust it slightly, but I thought it would be a good place to start, so.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
And then as far as audit updates, we're materially through the audit. I had an exit interview with the auditors on the 8th. I believe they're going to present at the next board meeting. She did need to check schedules. They're presenting at a lot of board meetings in the months of November and December. She said they would prefer November, so she was gonna try and make that work, but I'll figure that out as soon as possible and let Lori know if there's a change there, but I think we're safe to say that they'll present on the audit. A couple items to make you aware in your board letter, you're going to see a couple of adjusting journal entries. Probably the most notable is the county levied the mill incorrectly. So there's a journal entry basically moving it from the bond redemption fund to the general fund to the tune of about $240,000. So that's probably the biggest change that you'll see, and that will be outlined. She said they had 1 or 2 other journal entries that I actually haven't seen yet, so.
So wait, we're getting 240 more?
No, so the
Okay.
county, they,
It never goes like
I'm like, that's right, wait, what?
so overall,
Sometimes celebrate.
Come on, it doesn't matter out there, so I had to ask.
no, overall, they paid Clear Creek the right amount of money. They just paid it into the wrong buckets. So the
Oh,
bond
gotcha.
fund, the bond redemption fund
Okay.
got $240,000 more than they should have went into the general fund.
Just different buckets.
Yep, just
Okay.
different buckets. No extra money. Sorry. Also, they'll
I
address
was wondering why you
internal
guys weren't
controls.
standing up.
Because we're a small district, we have a very small accounting team. I have access to everything, basically. So, you know, it's not super troubling in that all of our revenue comes in from the state primarily, grants, it's almost all direct deposit. You know, most everything's electronic, and then checks, you guys review them quite regularly. We do have a lot of systems in place, but it is still not ideal in an auditor's world. But I'm like, we also can't afford another finance person, so.
Right, there's only so many U's.
We'll see exactly what their notes come back with, but essentially they're gonna say, we don't have as many separation of duties as they would like to see. And, you know, I don't know what the solution is, but
And I think
we
just
can work through that.
from previous experiences, that is very common in a smaller district that
Absolutely.
it gets on an audit, they have to put it on there.
They understand it.
Yeah, they do.
Well, and I think as you're here more, that some of that gets into your world and how you like it and how, you know, in response to the audit as well.
Well, and we have
Grace for time.
a team of 2, so we'll do what we can. Right now, the checks are printed with signatures. To me, that's something that I would probably like to address. I don't really love that. I do get the checks, I flip the checks before they go out the door, but it would probably be better for like me and Tom to be signers and actually handwrite our signature. I don't know, there's little things that we could probably do better. What else? So also at the high school, the activity funds, the high school bookkeeper has pretty much full access. I think she and I can work together to maybe create a few checkpoints, even just reviewing bank statements more regularly, things like that. So we'll get some processes in place to address some of the internal controls. Some of it we're just gonna have to accept. Getting through the data pipeline is one of the hangups. Basically, we have to have Georgetown audit before we can close ours. So we're waiting on that. I don't have a date that they think that their audit is going to be complete. So that would be the one hangup.
Do you need any help on that front or?
No, I think Lillian's working with Bart. I think they're working through it. I asked Bart, he said, ask Lillian. I think he's really busy
Sounds
right
about
now
right.
too, so. I don't have a firm date, but I think we
It's
shouldn't have a problem.
Okay.
And Lillian also said, as long as their audit is materially complete, I can probably close your audit. Otherwise, our audit's due to CDE by 12/31. We do have some financial assurances that Jessica, you'll have to sign, I'll have to sign, and Tom will have to sign. Really, there weren't very many discrepancies as far as grants are concerned, so I think we'll have a pretty clean bill of health.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I don't-
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. Then we'll move on to committee updates.
Sophie, you must come.
I'm here. This Rachel's rock star. Gets it all together.
Well, now.
Thanks for giving us time to speak. I'm Rachel Richardson. This is Sophie Egan. We're president and vice president of Clear Creek County Education Association. Let's see, our update tonight. First of all, thanks for giving us time to speak. We appreciate it. The association will comply with the district's request to share our update agenda ahead of time starting next month. We know the board is interested in maximizing meetings and business efficiency, so we appreciate the board that you're interested in hearing our input. Let's see, another gratitude is your stance on rejecting Amendment 80. Thank you. Let's see. And also thank you, Dr. Meyer, for meeting with Lexi, Alicia, and myself a couple weeks ago. and for hearing our input. We'd like to share some of the association's concerns. Let's see, regarding legislation resolution number 3, increasing required instructional hours. We understand that instructional time correlates with student outcomes and that Colorado has the fewest required instructional hours in the whole nation. Our move to a 4-day school week, or the move to a 4-day school week has been a popular compensatory move for Colorado districts, especially those who do not provide professional competitive wages. We have heard the district supports increasing instructional hours. Not a bad thing at all. But we will be very interested to hear how the district will add potentially 20 to 30 school days to our 4-day school week calendar, and what the board's good faith effort will be to compensate for this potential 20% increase in instructional time. We know it's down the road a ways too. We want to acknowledge that. Let's see. Finally, our big concern as usual is teacher retention and turnover. The association would like to challenge the board to look beyond marketing as a solution to increasing enrollment. Effective marketing can raise awareness, but it's the quality of the educational experience that truly drives enrollment. DAC survey results have shown that marketing efforts are kind of negligible in family decisions to enroll in CCSD. Perhaps the district might look into why so many Clear Creek K through 12 youth opt for Gilpin, Jeffco, or maybe homeschooling. A stable learning environment with experienced teachers who return year after year fosters a sense of community and continuity. A stable learning environment is what attracts families and students. Retaining educators is your answer to increasing enrollment. We strongly believe that if the district values teachers, they will retain us by paying us a competitive living wage. As you revisit marketing today, we encourage the board to think about why the board is unable to add low teacher turnover to your list of what Clear Creek offers that helps us stand out. We're deeply concerned that paying educators a professional wage isn't a bullet point on the future ideas list. I'm gonna skip this part. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Let's see, DAC or CAT. Represent this. Okay. Recognitions and celebrations.
Recognition and celebrations, that slide, yeah, there you got it up there. Okay, so first there, just communication. I think there's been a lot of communication from the principals this year with parents and others that way, trying to get more information out into the community, and just kind of talking about marketing a little bit too. That is part of marketing, getting things out to our parents and let them know what is going on. And that's relatively free. It's like time, it's relatively free. Cross-country season and other extracurriculars, cross-country season been going well. Other sports have too, just I want to highlight, they've done well, some meets that way. One thing I asked Brian Inman about is, what's the percent of our students who are involved in athletics and or fine arts? And those are the numbers up there, 52 at the high school and 56% at the middle school. He's working on those numbers from the past too, but they're relatively similar. My outside perception would be that's great, those kids are involved with that. I think we need to try to do more, try to get more involved. And anytime you're involved, it impacts attendance, it impacts grades, it impacts behaviors, all those kind of things. So I think that's a good thing that way. I think we have a lot of activities for kids. The King Murphy Preschool, their enrollment actually went up by 3 recently. Their 2-day a week is now full or close to full, which is great. That's excellent. I know they've given me some things to put out on Facebook about their program too. At least twice this year, I've thrown it out there. So I think Arlene's put that together. People around Arlene, I'm not sure who's doing it, but she's the one sending it to me. We did walkthroughs. I mentioned that study session at King Murphy, Carlson, and at the middle school, high school. Do some volunteers, or as I think Scott said, voluntold some way. So, but it was great. It was a learning experience, I think, for all of us involved, and that included the principals, the teacher learning. Kristen involved a lot of different people. So it was a really good thing. And obviously it's homecoming week, and maybe the biggest celebration of my son is when homecoming week is over. Being a former high school principal, I remember we were saying our dances Saturday night. I was really happy on Sunday morning. It was all over. So, but it's a great week. And I was talking to one of the teachers this afternoon, and I said, you know what? The stuff they're doing today at these activities in the gym, they'll remember. I go, nothing personal. Stuff you teach in class, they're not gonna remember a year from now, but they're gonna remember this. And if we all go back to school and think about that, what do you really remember? It's those types of activities that really come up. So very good.
Is there any effort being made to figure out why more students aren't participating in extracurricular?
I'm gonna be having that conversation, I'm sure, and Brandy and I have a little bit already, so we're just trying to figure that out. Yeah, it's a great question though.
Would like to
I
share.
think it's a
that-
celebration that it's good, the numbers there, but growing that number to 100% would be awesome.
Well, if we can figure out why, like, is it transportation, or is it money, or is it, whatever it may be, the more information we have, the more likely we can make some changes to get more students involved.
I know time has come back as an answer a lot of times, like just, and whether that's because parents can't get them to and from, but yeah, the Booster Club has spent some time on that, but yeah, what can we do to help with that? My concern is I've heard some feedback with students that are involved in both the fine arts and athletics, having some pushback from their coaches that if they don't do this or show up for this, then they are not going to be allowed to participate for a period of time. So
And obviously in a small school, that can happen that way. Now, this was meant as a recognition celebration. So but no, and you bring up a good
we were
point.
asking about how to grow it, if students are feeling like they're gonna be limited in how they can participate.
Can you just say, and the thing I would say, we're a small school. You need to be able to be involved in fine arts, so there's band, choir, the musical, play, football, basketball, volleyball, whatever it is. We have to have kids involved like that. And it's also not just emphasizing one sport, I'm just, Carrie, go ahead.
Have we had any applicants to the sheriff's grant money or expended any of that as of
I
yet?
do not know at this time.
I think they're presenting their check tonight.
We're presenting it tonight.
Oh, okay, good. So we haven't spent it, so no.
And I also think we probably need to market that some too.
Right, absolutely. And I'm wondering, can you please add, even if you have to add my puppy to the school system, can I please get the notices that you send out?
Oh, you want my newsletters?
I want your newsletter, I want,
Absolutely.
Gold used to have to do it on the hack side, but if you want to enroll Papsy, she'll go for it, and then I can get all the notices.
I'll be on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Only if it has good attendance.
All right.
That's on our website too.
Okay.
That's
Thank
what I had, thank you.
I know we've got public comment.
We do. First up, we have Chris Gould speaking on ballot 6A.
I just wanted to very quickly thank the board for having Libby and me at the work session last week, and with the separation of the business meeting and the work session that I guess gave me the opportunity to come in again and just say, I know that you have lots of tough decisions. You've been making lots of tough decisions, and they will continue to be tough decisions. I'm hoping that this is not one of them as far as supporting the library district. The partnership between Clear Creek Schools and the Clear Creek Library has been really solid in past years. And, as I look at what happens in the classroom, whether it's elementary kids getting more literacy support through the opportunities that the library offers, or up here at the high school, the incubator EDU class, getting support through the library there. So in the classroom, that's been a strong partnership. Outside of the classroom, schools operate, we have people here all the time, that's why Brandy never goes home. But for those that aren't in here doing those extracurriculars, they have a safe place. And on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, well, I don't know about Sunday, but that's another safe place for our kids to go, and they sure need it. Literacy is always a big concern, both for schools, you heard Lorraine talk about that, but also for our libraries. So there are just so many ways that our schools and our libraries come together to provide educated citizenry in our county. And so, I think our families need every support that we can get. And so I just, again, want to thank the board for the consideration. Thank you.
Autumn, online?
Yep, I just need one.
Okay.
Okay. Autumn, if you want to
Good evening, Autumn.
Okay, good evening, board members and everybody else. You all know that my passion has been assisting the district and being the best it can be for all of the district students. Outside of my work with this district, I have directly come to the board in various areas that need addressing in both good and bad. Once I had said in an IEP that it is my job as a parent to get you the resources you need to appropriately educate my SPED children if you don't have it. It is safe to say that I have more than delivered. Despite receiving the necessary tools, the bullying, discrimination on various levels, including from teachers, as well as the lack of communication, knowledge, and accommodation to capabilities have persisted and continued to plague the schools. This appears to be a result of inaction. As you know, I have had to pull my student out of CCSD and have enrolled them in another school that another former CCSD student transferred to a week prior. I see why students are leaving and the enrollment numbers are decreasing. Experiencing it firsthand makes one aware that the problems are much bigger and worsening than originally thought. It is harder for us to turn a blind eye than it is for those who only have an outsider's perspective. Reports of many of these issues are down in multiple platforms, including Safe to Tell. The reviews of these may indicate that the problems aren't as bad anymore or are gone altogether. However, students and families have stopped reporting. As my student put it, why report? Nothing is done, nothing changes. To our students, it appears that the only things being done is a vocal fuss, short time, only for the problems to come raging back in a retaliatory fashion when the coast is clear. A minority of the board, namely Jessica and Erica, have attempted to voice these concerns and take action, but appear to be brushed off as if the issue is non-existent. Everyone should be listening to them, following their leadership, and taking action. Please do not let these problems go any further. Take actions necessary to address these problems before they become bigger than the minor assault and battery cases that we have already seen in the district. This is largely because of bullying is not taken seriously, let alone any of the other problems. The next time might not be or it might be a whole lot worse, especially if you take into account what ignoring these issues has done in other school districts across the country. Please don't let us join the list. It is a club that no one deserves to be a part of. Thank you.
I would like to lift up that Kelly, in our last meeting, said, let's make sure that we push that bullying policy forward. So I think we're all recognizing that we've got some work to do. So, for business.
First thing on there was the marketing enrollment project quote. Share that with you. Mitch did say that this quote, he goes, it may not be the fanciest one here. He wanted to get it to me. He was working with someone and they were doing a bunch of election flyers that way. So but this is information he has. It's kind of split between content development and placement, or how you're gonna do that. And then also some digital communication. I also met, or Lori and I met with Laura Johnson just about some Facebook stuff yesterday with Canva that way. So we met with her. That was completely separate from this. So I don't, that's kind of marketing too, but it's completely separate from this. That was just to help me, as Mitch said, to try to get that thing situated over. Haven't quite figured it out yet, but we're working on that. Okay, so.
Has he made those Canva documents accessible?
Yes, they're all accessible. Lori has those, I have those. We can share it with others as well. In fact, I was going to do one today for my weekly nugget, but honestly, I didn't have the time to mess with it. Sorry.
So the
Just
brand
so you know.
guidelines are now in
Yeah.
our hands and we can help pass those
Those
out.
are the-
That's excellent.
So I had, and his quote was, whatever I said it was here, 11,546 that way.
Are you comfortable with some discussion? Again, I don't know that we're making a decision today, but
I think the one thing that I would say, and this was all designed around I'll call it the open enrollment into our district that we have ready to go on our website on December 1. That way. So I think, if we're going to do this, we need to move forward with that to try to get that out. The one thing that the principals have talked to me about is they would like to work with whoever's doing marketing, whether that's foundation, whoever it is, on working with them as well of ideas that they have, or just to get their involvement, input, not that maybe hasn't done before, but just to try to get more of that possibly. So that's kind of where I do think if we're going to do something for that open enrollment with the foundation, we need to do that now. If we're going to do it with a different group, we're gonna have a really difficult time to get that rolled out by December. I would say almost impossible. Maybe not impossible, but I would say close to impossible. Nothing's impossible. So my wife tells me this, but I think she's wrong. But anyway, so that's kind of where that's at that way.
so.
And I think we had $25,000 budgeted for marketing. Am I correct on that, Leah? I think it's what you told me. If you can't remember, I'm pretty sure you told me that.
Might be a little.
I was thinking, you think it's less than that? I thought I was thinking 30.
That was
No.
She said 25.
I said
I think
25, it's 25.
Yeah, I'm sure it was 25, so that takes up
Right.
about about 40%. Yeah, about 40%.
Well, for that first sum, but
Yeah.
with the open house.
If we would do the open house, yeah, if you would do the open house, that would.
What of an open house would be so expensive?
Yeah,
I think just if you have food, that
I mean-
really is the only thing that I would see with it that way. That's the only thing that I maybe have some other giveaways that way. I'm not sure how that would be attended. I talked to a couple people that said, I don't think would be attended well. I talked to a couple other people, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I haven't actually talked to Brandy about that yet. So, but anyway,
I think we'd be better off doing a marketing campaign at another school and inviting them for a private tour or something, and then that's free.
and Marcy, I would probably agree with that. Or if you're gonna have them, invite people, like anybody can come to the football game tonight.
Right.
To a volleyball game, volleyball's good, but basketball game, have them come to basketball, just, hey, you're welcome to come, see our school, see, we
And then
give you a
another-
tour ahead of time and go down to the game and whatever.
Another great marketing piece, and we actually, I mean, it's one student, but we have one student that came from Evergreen for volleyball because she attended the camp, liked the program, liked the coaches, you know,
That
and we
happens
could
quite often, yeah. in places.
market our camps, you know, that could be a way too.
That's not something that we have that is about, because I've seen that happen where I was at, so I've seen that happen. We try to create some
Yeah.
interesting conversations with it, but I think that would be, I would agree with you, that would be.
I mean, just to kind of keep talking about the open house thing, because I mean, I agree, it was a little bit of an eye-popping thing, and then I went into all kinds of places of why that must be, and that aside, I really wonder, because we are a small school, and I think that is what is so appealing in so many ways, that I almost feel like an open house sort of erodes that idea, because now you're kind of, well, if people come, then you're in with a group, versus being able to maybe have a little bit of a more intimate experience. And that makes me wonder if maybe on some of the collateral, it could say, call this phone number to schedule your private one-on-one tour as sort of that next level kind of touch point to get families into our buildings. Because I do think when you come into our buildings and you see, and what I've been noticing as I've been driving by, we have an identity now in our school buildings. They're kind of all nestled in the mountains. They're all very expeditionary, and it looks different. And I think that little bit of the call out of schedule your private, you know, informational tour, and you could have a Carlson phone number, a Clear Creek Middle School, High School, a GCS. You could have the numbers on there, and that might eliminate this cost for the 5,000. But I do feel very strongly that this is an opportunity that we should not miss. I know we're excited that we're only down 2, but if you look at our trajectory over the last several years, it's not 2. It's
Yeah,
quite a bit more.
You'll be down in enrollment.
Yeah.
Don't get excited.
That's right.
You know?
And so for me, I think we could ditch the open house, but I have huge concern about letting this just go and miss this opportunity.
I can understand missing an opportunity, but this paper tells me nothing. It tells me nothing about what the marketing plan is with our dollars and where their intent is. For one, you know, our print is all going to Canyon Courier. I'm not sure they have that much of a distribution that should be a focus of the print.
Well, that's actually all of the local, it's not just the Canyon Courier. That company owns all small rural newspapers.
It would go to all. those.
Colorado Community Media owns.
Another detail that's not provided, right?
Well, he told me that, and if I didn't communicate that's on me that way, Karen, that's why.
Is this your sheet or is this the foundation sheet?
That's the foundation.
Exactly. To me, this is so severely lacking in information, there's no way I could make a decision on this. When I do a marketing plan for my clients, when I'm getting ready to propose something for them, I'm giving them mock-ups, I'm telling them where my marketing is going to hit, what's my trajectory, how many I think we're going to be able to focus on, where we're going to focus on. I don't see any of that, much less the graphics part of things. And I know that they're a great partner, and I know that they've done some things in the past, but I almost feel like it's better off not doing it than to not know where our money's going.
I guess, you know, if I could just add a couple of things there, he was emphasizing the middle school, high school. He also talked about King Murphy, and the district as a whole. He said we could do, you know, mailings to that with some of the stuff I was just mentioning on Canvas, some of the flyers, postcards, things like that we could have some control over as well. He also talked about the Google ads there, Facebook, Instagram, X, which would be new for them to go on. The couriers or the papers that way. The next part was the emails to our community. And then I think kind of what Marcy talked about, and I do want to go back to what you were saying about those other schools out there and I'll say attacking that way. Maybe that's not the right word, but looking at that and how can we get into some of those schools, what preschools can we get into some of them? Can we mail to some of these people outside of our district, but getting the word out there? I also understand your concern, you know, Carrie Ann as well. And talking about the private visit. A private visit is probably, I think is one of the best things you can do. You have the right person. If there's someone has a family connection to that family, get them there. If they have a friend over here, get them there. If they somehow just make that connection some way, along with the principals and whoever else may be helping them out that way. Yeah, and I think the one thing in number 4, they talk about Floyd Hill, but what differentiates us? And I've said before, and I've said this others, what are we offering that they can't get somewhere else? And I think that's where, and I even talked something to Mitch about, there's, and he sees this, he's seen that list that I have, that he's seen that way too. But I think that's where the principals are saying, we'd like to, I believe, we'd like to be involved with that to help sell our school that way. So anyway, I just wanted to add that way too, so.
Well, and that's another thing. There's no clarity here on what schools are being promoted. And I've been saying it for years now, Georgetown never gets promoted. They never get promoted to Summit County. And that's an outrage that needs to happen. But every time I've asked about it, well, that sounds good. We'll work on that. But for 3 years in a row, nothing's ever been done.
Yeah, and I think this part was only a November through January contract or agreement, whatever you want to call it too, as we talked about looking elsewhere possibly, if we're not satisfied with this.
And I do think, I guess I'm just reading it a little differently, Carrie Ann, because to me, I feel like it is clear what it's talking about. It's focused on the middle school, high school, to drive families to this school. It's not looking at the other ones right now, and I think that's clear in this document. And I think, and not trying to be overly defensive, but I don't, given the way that this board has been talking about this work, I don't understand why somebody would spend a whole bunch of time building mock-ups when you're doing 4 other jobs. We've talked about our time constraints. The teachers union certainly has, we certainly have. And I think it's respectful for us to recognize that Laura is a retired person, so she doesn't have time, and Mitch is a county commissioner and he doesn't have time. And why spend all of that time to produce a document for a board that is not super on board? And so, to me, this is very clear of what he's planning to do and how he's proposing to fund it. So I don't have a lot of concerns around maybe the lack of detail. I have huge concerns about missing an opportunity to market this campus.
And he did put an emphasis on this campus.
Yeah.
Granted, it wouldn't just be here, but.
I agree with Carrie Ann. I was shocked at the price. This is, I'm not a marketing guru, so I don't have anything to compare it to, and we don't have time to get proposals from other places, but I kind of agree with the lack of detail. It's like, what is placement on Google Meta X? What is that? How many times? Like, what is the $1,500 cover? And I understand that Laura and Mitch are busy, but if they don't want to fully commit to this project that, is 40% of our marketing budget, then should we look somewhere else?
Or are we ready to miss the opportunity? Because I think that's the reality. It's this in some way, shape, or form that we adjust, or we don't do it because we don't have time to look for somebody else and get a proposal. We just don't. Like, the days
We
are
can
what they
try.
are. But we would need to be doing this before we would have a meeting to approve
We'd have to
anything.
get on the board, yeah.
So I admit that when I first saw the numbers, knowing that we'd heard 25 as our budget, I went, ooh, it took my breath away. But I'd also like to point out that the replacement value of those funds is 1 student. If we can add 1 student or not lose anymore. But yeah, this is only a piece. This would get us through January. And then we would need to reevaluate what we would do next, so.
I think it's a bad idea for us to spend district money and not know exactly where it's going. This is kind of a shot. Let's stick some things up there and see what sticks. And I don't see a plan here.
I think, it's, and I'm not, I guess the thing I would say when I talked to Mitch, I felt it was clearer than this year, if you find this unclear. The thing that I told him that we would want to work with him on developing this stuff. And I guess that's kind of my thing too. I don't think you can turn it over to whatever marketing group is out there and say, we want you, they need to run it by myself or principals or whoever before it goes out. I mean, that's too boring, but before it goes out, I do think that is something that, because, and I have no idea how it worked in the past. I have no idea at all. And I'm not just saying I really have no dang idea, you know, but, you know, I guess I want to be involved with what's going out.
Well,
I think that's part of my job.
Our,
So, sorry, Marcy, go
would
ahead.
it be coming from our social media or is it coming from the foundation? Because then that's when I think things get confusing.
See, it needs to come from ours.
It does.
And I talked to him, you know, I said, you know, I try to put stuff out there, but it's just, I mean, random stuff that way. But also, you know, I think it needs to be ads on ours, theirs, whatever, but people, and I could be wrong about this, people looking at the Clear Creek schools are looking at the Clear Creek schools, they're not.
Right.
This is nothing against foundation, I don't think they're looking at the foundation site, they're looking at our Facebook site, for example.
Yeah, because a lot of
Yeah.
outside of the district people are not gonna know
No,
what the
no,
foundation even is.
I'm not gonna, I'm
No,
not
if you Google Clear Creek, school district enrollment, it takes you straight to the foundation page. It does not take you to our page.
and that is an issue that needs to be addressed, that's our problem. But it probably, I think that's our problem, I'm not the guru on this, but I think that's our problem, that's nothing to do with
We'll work on some SEO.
marketing that way, but I wanna be involved with that in some way. And, you know, as far as whoever does it, I don't care what's done now, done 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. I feel I need to be involved with that, not to, and I'll get others involved, but
No,
don't
I
stress
couldn't
mine,
say
you
no.
know? And I think a couple of you, you know, being involved with that, you know, but,
Is there room to be involved and to set a not to exceed number? Would that be something you could move forward with?
and maybe that, he didn't say it was negotiable, but, maybe that number is
I
somewhat
think,
negotiable.
frankly, I think the print advertising is a waste of money. I think that should go into all digital and emails or whatever.
And what is-
Print
what is-
advertising is,
What would digital Google mean? Like,
so you can on Google,
Ads on the
like,
side.
you can create an ad, and for instance, when somebody goes to Google Maps and they're driving along, your ad will pop up,
oh, okay.
which I think would be wonderful. If
Because
somebody
for
driving
right
through
along I
Clear
said,
Creek
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
pops up. But is that what this is including? I don't know.
That, yeah, that's
What's
my
the ad buy?
interpretation of that, I guess,
Well-
that's my interpretation of that, Carrie Ann.
Right,
from
but
my
for
session.
$500 on the ad buy on Meta, that's not even gonna tickle what you need to reach. Your outreach for Meta and Google is probably more along the lines of $3,000, $4,000. And taking from the print media into that, I think would be a wiser investment of our funds.
So are you saying it's still the same total dollar amount, 11,500, but just shifting some of the priorities of where we're spending that money? Or do you want a lesser budget of closer to 10,000? Does that, I'm just.
Both.
But I know you're considering, Carrie Ann.
I understand wanting.
I think we all would
Yeah,
want less,
the less-
I think we all
always
wanna
want
spend
less.
less, let's be honest, we all wanna
Right.
spend
Yeah.
less.
So I do have a concern about losing our opportunity. I really do think it's important to have this decision made tonight, because our next board meeting a month from now, it will be too late to develop any of this for a December 1 rollout. And I think that time is needed from now until then to create material. I agree that the open house is not worth it. Having attended open houses here before, you know, I'm not sure that that is necessarily something that would be well attended or we should put a lot of money into. I also wonder about print advertising, Carrie Ann, if that's actually, you know, a viable option. And so, you know, I think that we should move forward with approving this with some modifications. So I don't know if we want to talk about we want to have a motion and a vote and a discussion, or if you would like for me to make a motion with, approving the marketing plan minus the open house expense, but moving some of the print advertising into, all digital campaign. So I'm asking for clarification on what you think might be the best.
And also the emails, I mean, it's only $250, but who would the emails go to? Is it district parents? 'Cause that's a waste.
It says that it would go to CCSD community or limited to out-of-district families, and then King Murphy 4th through 6th, because that's where we lose a lot, is they go to JEC.
So I think I would like to make a motion that we approve the marketing campaign put forward by CCSF with the modification that we will not do the open house. I would also like to add.
And they would have nothing to do with the open house anyway, but go ahead.
Right, taking out the $5,000 is what I'm saying. So that $11,546.25. However, I would also like to stipulate that I think Dr. Meyer needs more say in the placement of these dollars versus going directly with this estimate as listed.
Would you add to your motion to move the print advertising to those dollars to the digital?
Yes, I will add to print advertising dollars, $1,400 to digital marketing.
I'll second that.
I will look for discussion. Any other thoughts?
Where is the expense in sending out emails? That's,
I can see designing, but
like, you're probably just
Sending.
using your development that you've already got, your content
We've got
development and
kind of
sending
a
it as
network.
an email.
in-house, I think our
Right.
If we can move
principals.
that into digital to 250.
Move the emails and the digital. Erica, can you amend your first?
Sure, I amend my motion to move the HTML email cost into digital marketing.
I will second the amended motion.
Seeing no other discussion.
All right, Flanagan,
Yes.
Haig,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
McKee,
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Can we just time check that the football game
Uh-huh.
starts in 15 minutes? Thank you. We have like a million more things, so maybe we can move some along more quickly.
Say, out-of-state policy went to CASB. They provided some feedback on what parts don't work.
Yeah, they
With the state
provided, they provided some parts from their perspective on the requirement of the 6 weeks.
I have a question about reasonable distance.
Yeah, in reason, go ahead, Karen, go ahead.
Well, as I went through this and I tried to, walk through the honeycomb as many times as I could for each scenario. But I think that the way that I was reading this is that the reasonable distance ultimately comes down to you and what works for you and your staff.
Which kind of sends us back to can we just empower our superintendent to make those decisions when he's hiring staff persons?
I think we need this policy. We have to have this policy.
And
And it's nothing against Tom or anything like that. This is just one of those ooh owls that we got severely burned by in the past. This policy would hopefully prevent that. It allows him to hire teachers remotely. It allows him to make exceptions. He just has to come to the board and ask for the exception.
I have a concern about key executive employees, and really, if we're gonna have a policy like this, I think we need to be specific about who we're referring to so that it's not up for interpretation in the future. And, somebody could argue, well, that's not a key employee or executive employee, or this is a key executive employee. But if our board, or if our policy doesn't state specifically which positions those are, then I think you're just throwing it up for interpretation. That's my perspective on that.
So, and I liked what Brent had put in there. He had actually defined it way more than I did. Superintendent of schools and cabinet members direct reports to the superintendent and any other key district employees with duties which clearly and demonstrably require them to be close to their place of employment, for example, school leadership. But school leadership already directly reports to you. But this is where I also lie on, well, this is up to the interpretation of our superintendent. And if their position is integral to him, making sure our school system is running the way it should and that they have the ability to be there when they need to be there, then that's up to Tom. That's just another, every gray area in here, I kind of defer to, it's his. But I also, I could see where, I think he definitely defined it a lot better than I did.
Kelly?
So I have concern about this policy from a lot of different angles. I understand, Carrie Ann, why it's important and the kind of how we got here and the why we got here. I'm really troubled by it for a lot of reasons, most of which are captured in the notes on the CASB conversation. So I feel like that is a really great description of some of the concerns that I have, but I also can appreciate the intent and would like to maybe offer an alternative to this policy, that we consider putting this, as mentioned here, like in a handbook or as a HR practice. And also in looking at other districts and talking about and how might they look at this. Lots of districts in Colorado have very much front and center on their hiring page that they're a single state employer, and that you may not work for this district if you live in a different state. And I feel like that could get there, because I also am concerned about reasonable distance. I know we have educators who drive a very long way in what I would think would be completely unreasonable. And there's just so much gray that it feels like it's a better practice to me than a policy. And so, I mean, at this time, I'm very sorry we have had a deep connection, but I can't support this policy today.
I think the one thing that, and I think I can go either way here, I say, I think the one thing that you mentioned, Kelly, is single state employer is a key component to this conversation, which hasn't necessarily been brought up before. I think that it is, you could go a variety of different ways. The one thing that Kathy mentioned too is to put this in those key executive employees, whoever those are, put it into their contract as well, which may be a policy kind of way, but that's another thing too. I think it is something though that is it is a concern that this could happen. But I think part of that concern, honestly, has to be addressed by me or the person who's superintendent. I mean, it really does.
That's what I was going to say. Was going to allow it to happen.
Well, yeah, you know. And I think I think, Karen, you mentioned, they come to the board with exceptions or something. So I think you said that way, talk about that. And I guess when you look at it in that regard, one thing I think we need to figure out who are key executive employees. Those are the people, the directors, the principals, people that report in some manner to me. Is that who they are? I don't think that's who they are. That's what I think that organizational chart.
That's what I'm envisioning.
Yeah, that's what I would envision that way. And then going with, what's an acceptable distance to drive? For some people, it's like half an hour. I mean, for some people, it's 2 hours. It's not a big deal. I'll drive 2 hours.
I'm willing to nix that altogether just because we're talking about in-state.
Yeah.
We can nix that,
thing is big.
that whole.
Because reasonable is like, as long as they're making it to their job
Yeah.
on time.
It's like you're here at 7:30.
We have teachers from Summit and Golden and everywhere. We can just nix that. We could nix that altogether in this.
Yeah, I like the single state employer.
I agree.
what are our thoughts? Do we want to come back to this, or what do we want to do, or what?
I personally like single state employer, that's how we present ourselves. And then also making sure that if we need to put it in contracts for key employees, I like that idea. And then putting it back on the superintendent that it's your responsibility to make sure that your employees are where they need to be.
Yeah, and then it's enforced
Yeah.
when necessary.
The verbiage aligns with the state statutes.
Well,
Yeah.
just about every district, reached out to all the districts in Colorado, and almost all of them are single state employers. The ones that are not single state employers are the ones that border other states.
Makes sense.
And we'll move on to legislative priorities.
So where's this land then? I just-
Yeah, question, where is this landing?
Where's this-
Where are you at
It
with
is-
it, Marcy?
For the, what
Policy?
Oh, I'm fine with what we just said, we are a single state employer.
Okay.
And as long as some reasonable distance, I don't know if that's, somebody's can't do their job the way.
You're saying edit this, add single state employer, and then get rid of the reasonable distance? Is that what you're saying?
Not have
Um,
the policy.
Or not have,
do
I'm
we need a
confused.
policy or?
If that is our practice, and that's what we state, we don't need a policy for it, and that would align with why CASB doesn't have a policy written.
So I can put on the HR page that we are a single state employer, and then people will see that before they apply. And then when I'm calling candidates, I address, oh, you live out of state, are you moving? Like when we hired Brandy, she was out of state, but her husband had already transferred here. So it's a conversation I have with candidates.
So, but that doesn't address when we have a key executive employee who has to move out of state, and then what? And we don't want to leave.
Which is
that
what has
position-
happened before.
Which is what happened before and why it kind of carried over. But we didn't have guardrails or parameters there.
Well, before it was allowed by the superintendent
Right,
that
and
she
now we're
move
saying
and
no.
work from there. And now we're saying that
I think
if
if
you are resigning.
if something like that comes up, and I think someone mentioned it, but I won't mention it, the aspect of, I would bring exceptions to the board. I think that was said by someone.
Yeah, no.
I think it might be in here.
It's in here
Actually. I think it's
twice.
actually in
In
this
there
here.
twice,
Yeah,
yes.
it's actually in there, but I mean, I'm not sure what those exceptions would be. The world changes, I guess, too.
Right,
We're doing
yeah.
virtual things all the time now.
Yeah.
But I still don't see that as a future pathway for this district.
Well, I think that would be your decision if it's even worth an exception to
Yeah.
bring to the board. Be like, I'm sorry, you can't do this job from Texas.
But at the same time, if it's a key executive employee, he doesn't want them just falling off the face of the earth, right? We want them to be able to continue on for batoning.
Well, I think we would continue
I
on
think
until we went.
I think that's different in our past experience, that person moved and was given the okay to work from there indefinitely.
Correct.
Right.
It wasn't okay, you're moving and now we have to do this transition. That didn't happen. So I think going forward, we would make sure that if you are moving, you will be transitioning out of the job. You don't get to keep it.
That's
I can live with it being on the key executive employee contracts as well as smattered all over our website and our employee pages. I can live with that. And if it happens again, by God.
Then we're in. I told Jen we're in, then we're in.
We'll put it in there like.
How many minutes we have? We've got 6 minutes.
Six.
Got 9 minutes.
6 minutes and
Okay,
16
Kelly, can you do your shotgun on the resolutions?
well, we have legislative priorities first.
Do we have to? Let's do that.
I think we are.
I think we discussed it, I
discussed
don't
that.
think we have a motion that needs to be voted on, that we are, I think we were in alignment on how you wanted me to move forward in the meeting this weekend. So unless anybody's opinion has changed, I did hear the Education Association and
Okay,
I
great.
will.
Okay, moving on.
I would like to move that we adopt resolution number 2024-6, resolution in opposition of Amendment 80. You guys ready?
Yep, go for it.
Whereas Colorado has a longstanding commitment to school choice, beginning with the Public School Choice Act of 1990 and the Charter School Act of 1993. And whereas state law consistently provides residents with a range of educational options, including public, charter, and open enrollment schools. And whereas the Colorado Association of School Boards, CASB, recognizes that Amendment 80, School Choice in K-12 Education, seeks to amend the Colorado Constitution to create a constitutionally protected right to school choice for K-12 students and their parents. And whereas Amendment 80 potentially creates a pathway for public funds to be redirected to private institutions through vouchers, education savings accounts, or other programs, thereby threatening the financial stability and sustainability of Colorado's public schools. And whereas the diversion of public funds to private schools goes directly against CASB's mission to protect public education and ensure sufficient funding for public school districts, which is core advocacy platform for CASB. And whereas the inclusion of private education in Amendment 80 could divert public funds to private institutions, undermining public schools. And whereas Amendment 80 does not clearly define the rights of parents and students or how these rights will intersect with the district's legal responsibilities. And whereas the long-term impact of Amendment 80 remains uncertain and its effects will depend on subsequent legislation and judicial interpretation. And whereas the Colorado Association of School Board believes the existing school choice framework already provides ample educational opportunities that enable parents to choose an educational program that meets their diverse needs. And whereas the Colorado Association of School Boards strongly advocates for adequate funding for public education in Colorado. And whereas the Colorado Association of School Boards is in support of school choice and is opposed to public dollars going to private institutions. And whereas several education advocacy organizations have publicly opposed Amendment 80, citing concerns about its potential harmful impacts on Colorado public schools. And whereas the Colorado Association of School Boards declares that Amendment 80 poses a significant risk for the funding and health of Colorado's public education system and contradicts CASB's fundamental mission to advocate for and protect public schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Clear Creek Board of Education officially declares its opposition to Amendment 80 and will actively communicate the facts and rationale behind this opposition to its membership to ensure clarity on why this stance is in the best interest of public education. Adopted and approved this 17th day of October 2024.
I'll second that.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Hague.
Yes.
King. Yes. McHugh. Yes. Norm.
Yes. 6A.
I would like to move that the Clear Creek School District adopt resolution number 2024-5, a resolution in support of the passage of Proposition 6A. Ready? Whereas the Clear Creek County Library District is a political subdivision of the state of Colorado and a duly organized and existing library district pursuant to Title 24, Article 90, Part 1, Colorado Revised Statute, Colorado Library Law. And whereas the district is a source of great community pride, operating 2 historic libraries in Idaho Springs and Georgetown, plus the local history archives at the Old School in Georgetown, Colorado, which are community gathering places and great community assets for all Clear Creek County residents. And whereas pursuant to the Colorado Constitution and the Colorado Library Law, the district is authorized to propose changes to the district's property tax rate. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the district has found that a small increase in the district's property tax is appropriate and necessary to the function and operation of the district. And whereas the November 2024 ballot will contain Proposition 6A, which if approved by the voters will enable the district to maintain library services included but not limited to 1, developing special programs for kids that help them read, think, and learn, and think to be entertained in a positive, productive way. 2, ensuring our libraries continue to be a community gathering space open to everyone at no charge, providing a place to go and read or use free internet service. 3, adding even more of the newest best-selling, popular, and classic books and movies available for free to the public. 4, providing increased services to an aging population, including technical support services, lifetime e-reader checkouts, home delivery, and home Wi-Fi. 5, evolving with new technology like offering ebooks and audiobooks that can be downloaded for free on a smartphone or electronic reading device. 6, providing cultural events, classroom visits, story times, craft sessions, book groups, writing labs, and local history archives. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Clear Creek School District as follows. 1, expresses support for Proposition 6A. The school district hereby expresses its support for the passage of Proposition 6A by the voters in November 2024. The school board urges citizens to vote yes on 6A. 2, severability. If any part, section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this resolution is for any reason held to be invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the validity of the remaining provisions. Effective date. The resolution shall take effect and be enforced immediately upon its approval by the Board of Education, adopted this 17th day of October 2024.
No discussion? Lori?
You need a second?
No, whoa, yeah,
I'll second.
thank you.
All right, Flanagan.
Yes.
Hague.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
McHugh.
Yes.
Norm.
Yes. Committee positions, I think we discussed those well in our study session. Unless anyone sees someone.
The only thing that's
Yeah.
not on there, we had discussed Kelly and I working on the fourth floor, and I just wanted to get that.
That's my bad, that's my bad.
Okay. I think that it was assumed.
Right.
That was definitely
Okay, I
discussed.
just want to make
Yeah.
sure it's out there.
All right.
I apologize for that.
Resolution for the sale of Old Carlson Elementary.
I would like to move the Clear Creek Board of Education adopt Resolution 2024-4, resolution authorizing the sale of Carlson Elementary School. Whereas Section 22-32-110 sub 1 sub E of Colorado Revised Statutes provides the Board of Education of a school district has the power to be exercised in its judgment to sell and convey district property which may not be needed within the foreseeable future for any purpose authorized by law upon such terms and conditions as it may approve. And whereas the Board of Education resolves that the district property located at 1300 Colorado Boulevard, Idaho Springs, Colorado 80452, the Carlson Elementary property, may not be needed within the foreseeable future for any purpose authorized by law. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education President and District Superintendent are authorized to explore the potential sale of the Carlson Elementary property subject to further terms and conditions to be later established and approved by the Board of Education. Certification. I hereby certify that the foregoing is a true and correct copy of a resolution adopted by the Clear Creek School District Board of Education at a meeting of that board lawfully held on October 17, 2024.
I second.
Any discussion? Seeing none.
All right, Flanagan.
Yes.
Haig. Yes. King.
Yes.
McHugh.
Yes.
Yes. Say deferred maintenance, I think we have also discussed this well.
If I could just add some on deferred maintenance real quick though, you know, sharing this information is all in transparency for all of you to know with bond funds, you know, as I said at the bottom of the cover sheet there, you know, this doesn't technically need a vote. Since bond money decision-making process, in the past for these funds was determined. But just in all transparency, I want you to know where we're going that way. We're looking at those roofs and there'll be other things for other buildings across Georgetown, King Murphy, high school and beyond that way, so.
I think the only thing I would add to that is that we did elevate this to the CAT in our meeting last week to make sure that there were no significant concerns about moving in this direction. And for the benefit of the board, there were none. There was full consensus that protecting our assets is a smart, responsible thing to do. So I thought I would just share that with you all as well.
Thanks for the exercise in transparency.
All right, for the DAC, we have 4 individuals who have.
Well, it depends on how you want to term those that way. We have the first person on the list there, does not meet the criteria necessarily of being in those areas that way. The
I would
next-
move to approve the second, third, and fourth
Yeah.
person.
I'll second. Flanagan.
Yes.
Do we want
Okay.
discussion first? Do we want discussion? No? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Still yes. Haig. Yes. King. Yes. McHugh.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
I will let these individuals know and let.
Seeing that the adjustments that we talked about to the family calendar were made from our study session to now, I would like to move that we approve the family calendar for 25-26 and 26-27.
Thank you for including graduation.
For a second. Any discussion?
All right, Flanagan.
Yes.
Haig. Yes. King. Yes. McHugh.
Yes.
Yes. Policy work. We've got 3 policies on the first read. The first being bullying prevention and education and investigation form, which was elevated earlier this evening as something that is very important within the district. So do we have any?
There were some changes made, none since that time. The changes were made in orange and then in magenta.
Thank you for-
Public comment for
thank you
those are
including.
still open till the 31st. Okay.
I'd move to approve JICDE on first read.
Second?
Flanagan.
Yes.
Haig. Yes. King. Yes. McHugh.
Yes.
Yes. JLCE is first aid and emergency medical care, and that was really just, our conversation was just to do the very best that we could to get the students to their first choice.
We crossed out a lot of shalls, put some wills.
Yes.
I'd move to approve JLCE.
Second?
Flanagan.
Yes.
Haig. Yes. King. Yes. McHugh.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Crisis management.
Policy KDE, crisis management.
Do we need to do JICDE?
Oh, the bullying
D2.
investigation forms. Yes,
Can I
thank you.
amend my motion on that to include JICDE E2?
And then we need an amendment.
I will second the amended motion.
Flanagan,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Yes. Now, policy KDE, crisis management.
This one again has some shalls, turn the wills. I would move to approve KDE crisis management, as long as Eric is okay.
Yes. I'll second.
Flanagan,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Norton.
Yes. I look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Hay. Yes. King.
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Norton.
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Well, future agenda items, I just want to lift up. I've had a few people ask about being involved in the agenda planning. And being that we've got a year left, that gives everybody 3 visits to decide, I think, I know Carrie Ann had expressed interest. So if that is okay, then we'll just make kind of a choice
Round.
at the end of each board meeting of who the second will be and ta-da.
Great.
Any other future agenda items?
Just the student policy one.
Yeah, keep
Yeah. that's-
working on
down that
how
one.
we,
I sent Tom the draft
The
from.
draft,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
gotcha. And Summit County would be very curious to get a copy of that when we're done.
I'd like to move to adjourn.
Hello? I mean, second. I'll second.
Flanagan,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
Norton.
yes.
Go Diggers.
Lori, could we get the resolution 80 updated and then
Thanks, everybody.
sent out?